Hello everyone, what is up? It is me, Ewan from What Culture. Today, again, joined by Zoe.
Still Zoe.
Because it's Wednesday and that means that a new batch of comics have released this week. We'll get to more probably tomorrow, but today, Doomsday Clock number 11, the big hot tamale that it is, deserves our immediate attention because this series has been going for 2 years now. And, you know, say what you will about scheduling conflicts or whatever, I think it's really good that despite the fact, you know, we've had to wait a long time for this series to come out, and it's probably changed a lot along the way due to these delays. It's kind of refreshing to see two creative teams basically sit down and say, this is how we want the comic to look from start to finish. And I think it's probably, at least with what we've seen in Doomsday Clock number 11 and everything beforehand, it's paying off, isn't it?
Like, as much as we joke about the fact it's been continuously delayed, because it has been continuously delayed, I'd rather that than them rush it and then, like, what's supposed to be a huge event suddenly be like, oh, and then everyone died. There you go.
Because I've been personally worried that maybe DC were looking to backtrack a little bit away from the changes that are being introduced here, and whatever. The really interesting thing is obviously last issue, I did a video on it about how Doomsday Clock just changed DC's history forever. I did get a slight mistake with that video. I said that Dr. Manhattan had changed everything, but it's actually the New 52 that he'd influenced. He hadn't done everything else beforehand. That was just me being an idiot and misreading everything, but whatever. Doomsday Clock 11 is basically a giant exposition dump, and we get some really, really juicy moments in this comic as well. My personal favorite is Batman literally saying, screw you to the apocalypse and beating the crap out of a bunch of nuclear warheads technicians and stopping them from launching ballistic missiles, which is really, really cool.
It's pretty stone cold.
That cover is awesome, and then in the comics, the guys, they're like, oh, you're breaking my hand, Batman, and then he like beats the crap out of everyone else, and then the US government come after him because he's like stopping the nukes, and they want the nukes to go off, which is a shame, but yeah, it's really, really cool. We got that. We got Alfred reading Rorschach's journal as well, and then making some pancakes. Pancakes like the biggest theme of this comic, I feel.
I'm alright with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
But yeah, it's really cool. We basically get him finding the new Rorschach, or the guy who thinks he's Rorschach, and trying to convince him, look, we done goofed. We realize now that what was in this journal wasn't just bad crap insane, but you actually had a point here, and we're going to try and recruit you. And then new Rorschach's just like, no, leave me alone, I don't want to help you anymore. And then after that, we get the big reveal, don't we?
It's a big ol' reveal.
Yeah, because Ozymandias, turns out, has been up to his usual shenanigans, and initially we thought, obviously with Doomsday Clock, we thought that he was taking Marionette and Mime and the new Rorschach to the DC Earth, because that's where Dr. Manhattan is currently residing, and they want him to basically come back and fix their universe because it kind of got nuked after everyone discovered that Ozymandias had, you know, blown up New York. And the entire world peace that they'd fabricated during the original Watchmen was all for naught. And basically it turns out now that Ozymandias can't stop scheming, and he's decided that he wants to save both the DC universe and his old continuity by basically turning the world against Superman.
He always has an interesting plan where it's like, here are my really good intentions, and here's like a really awful thing I'm gonna do to try and justify those good intentions.
Yeah, it's a massive scheme. I'm there reading it and I was like, wait, what? And it's kind of stuff that we'd seen being planted in front of our eyes at the moment. And basically, this is the closest the Doomsday Clock's gotten to midnight right now. I think they move it like a few minutes off the 12 hand. And we see the world basically going to hell. We have Black Adam's forces from Kahndaq attacking the United States. We have Wonder Woman fighting Giganta. We have, you know, Russia is threatening to basically march on Washington to get them to hand over Superman following the whole Firestorm detonation early in the series. The heroes that went to Mars are nowhere to be seen. It's a bit of a dramatic time, but Lex Luthor has been getting up to some Lex Luthor-iness. He's been investigating the time anomalies, and we find out, you know, basically confirming what happened beforehand with the way Manhattan was influencing the timeline and how it related to the Actor. We've seen loads of different time things happening across time, and Lois Lane discovers that, Lex Luthor discovers that, and I'm potentially hoping that maybe Lex is going to save the world in this
He really
the next
did
issue.
Like Luthor the Sluther more than anything else.
Yeah.
I've been very impressed, and I think because we've seen such a lack of Luthor, there's no way that it'll just be like, oh, you know, the really smart dude who's the arch enemy of Superman. We just won't include him. So I think either him or potentially Green Lantern, which we'll get to, should sort of sneak in at the end when we least expect it.
Yes, we learn that Ozymandias also has his own secret lair that he's established, and he's been. I don't know how. There's it's slightly contrived how he's able to manipulate the media and everything else, having only just arrived in the DC conspiracy to do all that stuff. But whatever, we'll let that slide. Basically, we find him in his lair, and we think that's the original Green Lantern, Alan Scott, in that cell with his little Green Lantern. And then also, big spoilers, Saturn Girl is there, or rather the pre-crisis. No, I think it's a the Legion of Superheroes are so confusing, right? I literally did a list on Superboy and Supergirl like a few months ago, and every time I go look back at that, it's like Vietnam flashbacks all over again. Like there's napalm off in the distance, and I'm doing the 1,000-yard stare.
How many Superboys? How many Superboys?
Yeah, but so basically she's there, and Ozymandias is like, oh, you think Superman's gonna help you, right? He doesn't even remember you, and then she basically just fades away because obviously we learn that the whole universe is kind of revolving around Superman's memory, and yeah, that kind of sets up the stuff we're seeing with Bendis's Legion Lost and what's going to happen with that going forward. So yeah, it's really, really big. The other big reveal was that the reason why Dr. Manhattan didn't kill Marionette outright during before the first issue even happened is because that her child would later be adopted by Silk Spectre and Night Owl.
I was so stoked about this.
Yeah.
In such a dark series, it's nice to be like, but they probably have a happy ending, so there's that, unless the world ends.
And then obviously after that we have the whole, basically the inevitable confrontation that's been building for the past 12 issues. Superman finally meets Dr. Manhattan after getting punted about 5 miles away by Black Adam on the White House lawn, which is interesting in and of itself.
Well, it's interesting because everything I've seen, people are like, oh, this big fight's about to happen, and it's like, Black Adam is also going to be involved in this fight. A series of supervillains and anti-heroes are still trying to attack Superman at the same time. Yeah. So it's not just going to be one big confrontation, it's going to be a series of big confrontations.
Yeah, and it's like, because obviously in the same issue, Black Adam basically takes down Wonder Woman as well, and the Amazons basically intervene to get Wonder Woman to return. But yeah, the Ozymandias basically reveals that the Superman theory is actually partially correct, not to the insane conspiracy that he concocted, but the government did definitely experiment on metahumans after the Superman first arrived on the scene. So there was some interesting stuff going on with that. But yeah, what did you think of the issue overall? It was kind of a massive exposition done, but also maybe a necessary pause before we get to the big finale.
Well, I think obviously every issue 11 is always going to have a bit where you're like, oh, it was almost this really big moment. But I think it's always interesting to see these big villain reveals. I'm a total sucker for and here's my evil scheme. And I think the thing with Ozymandias' plans is they're always contrived.
It's Ozymandias. But
the thing with that guy's plans.
Josh, all of you, pronunciations are wrong, damn it.
One day.
Yeah.
The thing with his plan is that they're always contrived and they're always incredibly elaborate, but they also always make sense on some level, and I'm particularly excited to see him possibly get his comeuppance for once, because the thing with Watchmen is it very much ends and he's like,
yes.
Did that thing, whereas this I don't think he'll escape that cleanly out of.
I wouldn't be surprised if maybe, sorry to cut you off there,
okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if we have Superman, the series has been building towards Superman fighting Dr. Manhattan, and then Alfred, Batman, and the new Rorschach basically uncover the plot and stop by and basically convince Manhattan to save both timelines, maybe.
That would be sublime.
Yeah.
Quite simply sublime. But I'm particularly interested to see some kind of Dr. Manhattan fight, because obviously every time we've seen him, he's just like, and then I take everyone out. Wow, huge shocker. So to see him not only fight Superman, who we've repeatedly seen is on the same power level, but also maybe some other heroes, because he said he struggles with the Green Lantern power rings, and we do have a Green Lantern who we have seen in the last issue. There's some really good chance to see sort of him actually get beat up for once.
Yeah.
Which I'm weirdly excited for, even though that's a little bit sadistic.
It's not. He's Ozymandias, and it's one of those things where I've gone through both Watchmen and Doomsday Clock, and we're getting towards the end of it now. And it's obviously very critically acclaimed, but also kind of divisive in the sense that you look at the way Alan Moore's material has been used since. I think this is before we not to jump to the gun too early, but I do think this has been a worthy continuation of what we saw in Watchmen, even if you're not necessarily too happy about the way the thing ends. But whatever, I'm kind of of really interested to see where 12 comes out. It's December, I think it's currently slated for. Fingers crossed there are no more delays, because I don't think I could take it if there was another delay, because I'm right on the edge of my seat right now, literally. I'm not literally on the edge of my seat, but I am kind of, you know, metaphorically there in a sense. And yeah, I'm one of the things that I'm kind of really looking forward to is that big climax, because at the same time, while I hope they subvert this whole thing, my inner child is also just kind of like, I want to see Man of Steel fight
I want to see the big fight. Like, as much as we're grown adults, part of you's always got to be like, I wonder who would win. I wonder who would win if they fought. Who would win
in a fight between Dr. Manhattan? I mean, it's obviously Dr. Manhattan.
We will find out. We might find out. I hope we find out.
Yes. But yeah, please let us know what you thought of Doomsday Clock number 11 down in the comments below. Were you blown away by the big exposition dump, or did you find it a little bit too distracting before we get to the final big ostensible throwdown that we're going to get in Doomsday Clock number 12? But yeah, please let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, as it really does help us out. You can follow me on Twitter at YouRunesThings, and you can follow Zoe on Twitter at
Zemaskel, which I can pronounce.
There you go. You can pronounce that. I can pronounce things as well. So yes, we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.